What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to Football Manager 2019 in the future. This year, it's the year 2219. We've gone forward 200 years. If you've missed the previous videos in this series, we went forward 50 years, we went forward 100 years. We've gone forward now another 100 years today. As always, there is going to be stuff I miss in this video, so if you spot anything odd, please do let me know it. I will also warn you that because of how far into the future I am now, the game is getting very, very laggy. So as a result, I'm going to have to minimize kind of screen clicks. As I've talked about before, I'm going to go through most of the main stuff here. If there's anything that you'd like to see covered, perhaps in more detail, I'm still thinking I may well stream myself just going through these save games and looking at different bits and pieces. If that is something you'd like to see, please do let me know. And well, without further ado, let's just start with World Cup winners. So since we were last here, 100 years ago now, you can see here, I'm European dominated, I guess would be the best way to describe the Champions League. Not the Champions League, sorry, the World Cup. Mexico did win it in 2138. Portugal winning it a couple of times. Italy winning it. Switzerland winning it back in 2146. Going through these, Ukraine winning it 2 out of, 12 years is a really, really good achievement there. Spain won it 3 years in a row. Scotland, rejoice, you've won a World Cup. Belarus finished third. That is very weird. China finishing third in 2142 is kind of interesting as well. And, well, you can see recently, oh my gosh, Spain, what are you doing? They won it 3 more years in a row. It depresses me that in the future, Spain are still as dominant. Actually, that's the same 3 years they won, Jack. But they've gone on since then to win it another 2 years. That is a little bit mad. Germany, third place, 3 years in a row. That's got to feel bad, hasn't it, really? But yeah, Spain looking like the dominant force of world football. I know in previous videos I've had people ask me, Jack, can you show X or Y or Z, you know, in terms of different leagues? The only leagues I have loaded up are the leagues that I've gone through. In Football Manager, leagues outside of those you have loaded, when you get this far into the future, just get kind of simulated completely randomly. I could go through it in a live stream, but it's just not something that I think is worth going through here. But anyway, let's look at Euro kind of winners. And well, you can see here England winning it 2 years in a row in 21-24 and 21-28. Russia winning it, the Netherlands winning it. As we go through this, Belarus must have had a 6 squad at some point because they've won the European Football Championship. Who is their best player right now? We're going to find out as we wait for the screens to load. As I said, we are at a point now in the game's future where the game is just going to be very, very slow, unfortunately. With the number of leagues I've got loaded, the save file sizes are over 1 gigabyte at this point for a save game per year. So, yeah, you get an idea for how big it is. Since Belarus's victory, which I think might be the biggest shock I've seen so far, England won it a couple more times. Scotland won the Euros. England have won it the last 2 years. Romania and Denmark both winning it. I mean, that's pretty good achievements in themselves. Yeah, I mean, fair play there. You can see Belarus actually finished runners-up in 2180 as well. Belarus must have just had a golden generation. I mean, fair play to them. In the next 200 years, a Belarusian viewer, if there's any of you out there watching, you're going to have some success. Maybe not in your lifetime, but something for your future generations to look forward to. Anyway, let's move on to England and the Premier League, of course. Compared to last episode where we had 50 years to go through, we now have 100 years to go through. This is going to take quite a bit longer, so come on, Football Manager, stay with me here. So if we go to the Premier League, top of the league is Barnsley. They have played a few more games than Arsenal. Looking at the current kind of teams in the league here, Sunderland back in the big time. Doncaster Rovers, bit of a shock perhaps. I'm concerned that I can't see Liverpool as a Liverpool fan. I mean, please excuse me, where are you, Liverpool? The champ. Okay, let's just not worry about that. Let's look at the past winners here for the Premier League. So looking at it, actually, this is weird. Lots of the old guard returning. Swansea have won it here and there, but in recent years, Manchester United and Arsenal winning it a number of times. If we just go back to when we were last here, which was when Manchester United were dominating it and Everton had just won, you can see that West Brom side did go on to win the league a couple of seasons. Then actually, Crystal Palace emerging alongside Arsenal and Manchester United, who have been very dominant throughout. West Brom then had another era, and then Everton came in and had their era again. Crystal Palace and Brighton. I mean, imagine that rivalry between Brighton and Crystal Palace. I mean, those teams hate each other now in real life. Imagine if they were fighting for the Premier League title year in and year out. That would be so insane to see. Continuing forward here, Norwich. Norwich won the league 5 years in a row in the 50s. I have family from Norwich. It's kind of a team that I'm fairly familiar with. I want to look and see if they had a Tycoon takeover. I feel like to be competitive in the Premier League, you probably had to have had a Tycoon takeover. But yes, they had this absolutely crazy one. They won the FA Cup. They finished runners-up in the Champions League. We'll have a look through that in just a second. Yeah, they did get a Tycoon in 21-40. So that helped them a little bit, but fair play. 5 titles in a row, regardless of the amount of money, is still a pretty impressive achievement. From there, you can see Manchester United had another spell of dominance. And then actually, it's become kind of previous Champions League big dogs just up here again. A bit boring in a way, the fact that Chelsea, United, Arsenal and Man City have just kind of shared the title amongst themselves for the best part of the last 50 years. Swansea, the only team to really break that combo. But yeah, Barnsley in recent years have finished runners-up a number of times. But yeah, it's kind of weird to see that in the distant future, 200 years, despite kind of teams being quite hit and miss, there's going to become an era potentially where they all kind of compete with one another once again. Let's just have a quick look at records. I wonder if any have been broken. Most points in the season, still 106 by that Tottenham side. Fewest points in the season, Plymouth. You set the record, 9 points. Oh dear. What happened, Plymouth? What happened? I mean, looking at it, they've been up and down a little bit, but yeah, they finished rock bottom and got the fewest points ever with 9. Who has the lowest now in real life? Is it still Sunderland? I know it was Sunderland for years. In terms of other records here, Middlesbrough went 10 games without scoring at one point. That's an achievement. What other stats we got here? Most matches without winning, 38. Did Watford not win for an entire season? 2190. You know what? This might kill my game, but I need to see what that season was. 2190. Right, that's the wrong season. We want to go one season earlier. Watford went down, drawing 12 games out of 38 and not winning a match. I mean, that's almost impressive. That is almost impressive there, to be honest. Bolton in the Prem. Where are you now, Bolton? Top of the Championship. I mean, that is the definition of a yo-yo club. But I'm pleased to see Bolton back in the big time. Right, we've had a look through English football. Let's have a look through the Champions League before we go through some of the other competitions. So, of course, the Champions League usually simulated quite well in this save game because I've got so many of the big European leagues loaded. Looking at it, actually, German dominance as of late. Of course, we'll go through the German league shortly. You can see here, Anderlecht finished runners-up in 2190. Looking at it here, not many Premier League teams doing that well. United won it, 10 years ago now. But besides then, it's been largely the big dogs of Germany and France, it looks like, winning it a fair few times. The German league seems to have become a real powerhouse. Sevilla winning it a couple of years during the 2170s. Chelsea won it actually a fair few times during the 60s. You can see here they won it a lot. Brescia, I think that's how you say this team's name. They won it as well. They start in the Serie B. You can see here they went for a period where they were a very, very solid team. Recently, they have tailed off a little bit. Norwich won 2 Champions Leagues, beating Real Madrid in the final. Palace beat Real Madrid in the final as well. I mean, that's a weird sight to see, isn't it? Continuing through here, again, German teams just doing very, very well. Schalke standing out as one of the big dogs. Deportivo La Coruña, holy crap, they won it 5 years out of 6, and they then went on to win it a couple of seasons later, and they won it a couple of seasons before that. They must have had a really good spell of dominance. It'll be interesting to see if they made it show in Spain as well. Continuing through here, though, you can kind of see the teams that we've got. But yeah, Schalke doing very well. If we just look at Champions League records, most time winners is still Manchester United. Highest attendance was 140,000 a decade ago, or 2 decades ago actually. The highest average attendance was set by Marseille of 140,000. Do they have just a crazily big stadium then? They must have a stadium that holds 140,000 and they sell out every week, I imagine. Yeah, 140,000 seat a stadium. That is nutty. I'm trying to imagine that in size. That's double the size of Wembley. I can't actually imagine that in a seater stadium. That hurts my brain a little. Anyway, continuing through these other records, Tottenham won 19 matches in a row. Most games lost in a row. Rostov, fair play. You've got the wooden spoon here. Most goals scored. Spartak Moscow in 2,213, so a recent record there. Looking at it, Ronaldo still most goals by a player in a season. Any other things? Most assists by a player. Malamine Fane of Everton got 12. That was a record there. Youngest player ever was this guy playing for Spartak Moscow, who played at the age of 15 and 148 days in February 2150. Oldest player to ever score, kind of interestingly, it's still Cristiano Ronaldo. So his record remains unbeaten there. Right, let's go through Germany, because Germany seems to be the league where interesting stuff is happening. And, well, looking at it here, you can see Wolfsburg, top of the table, look like they are going to win it this year, although there's still 6 games left, so it could change around. Dortmund, still one of the big dogs in this league, of course. When we last checked, Dortmund were just dominating, and it was a little bit boring, really, wasn't it? They went through that spell where they just won it all the time in the 60s and 50s. Since then, Schalke and Leipzig getting in on the action. You can see Schalke winning it 7 years in a row there, and then Dortmund came in and won it 7 years in a row. Then Schalke win it 8 years in a row. I mean, it looks like it's been the Schalke-Dortmund rivalry. Mönchengladbach, to be fair, 21 40s and 50s, got a lot of title wins themselves. But yeah, really, no massive shocks here in terms of teams emerging. The fact that Wolfsburg are top of the league this year is kind of a big shock in itself. You can see they finished second a couple of years ago now. If we look at record holders, Dortmund 80 times winners, most points in a season. They got 100 in a season, which is absolutely crazy. That is winning all but one game, I think, and drawing one. I mean, that's mad, isn't it? Most league wins. Schalke got 33 wins in a season as well. So a few times, actually, teams have done that record of just winning all but one game. No one got the perfect season just yet in Germany. Highest average attendance set by Dortmund of 123,000. And the highest attendance ever at a game, 129,000 for Dortmund against Bayern. That was over 100 years ago now. Weird that that record still hasn't been broken. I'm guessing that Dortmund still probably play in the same stadium. Yeah, you can see here that they have a standing area, but yeah, 129,000, 96,000 seated. And they have, obviously, state-of-the-art facilities as one of the best teams in the world. I mean, looking at it here, kind of a little bit under the radar, but Dortmund have not won the title in a lot of years now. They won it last year, but prior to that, they went through a dry spell of the best part of 30 years. So that dominance for them kind of has fizzled out. They are still the record holders with 80 wins. Bayern, on the other hand, I mean, have Bayern actually won the competition recently? I'm curious to check now. Where can I see this? I guess history. And then I can mouse over the Bundesliga if I can spot it. When was their most recent win? 2046, Bayern Munich's most recent win. I mean, that's kind of mad. They won the Bundesliga 2 in 21-34, so they have actually been relegated in this save game as well, Bayern, but they have stabilised a little bit now as of late. Let's move into Spain and see what's going on in La Liga. We saw the Deportivo went through a spell of dominance at one point. I'm imagining they probably did the same domestically as well as just in Europe, so we'll see what was going on there. In terms of the first division, let's have a look at it. If it loads, please, FM. Getafe. Okay, well, that's not a team I expected to see the name of. They might not win the league this year, but... Oh my God, okay. Getafe are like the best team in Spanish football history. In the last 30 years, they've won the league 27 years in a row. Or not in a row, but 27 of those 30 years. That is mad. And the other years, they still finished runners-up. Barcelona up there. Santander, okay, not a team I expected to see. They won the title 3 years in a row. They won it 5 years during the 80s. Sevilla went through a spell of dominance in the 60s and 80s where they won it a load of times. Villarreal before that. I mean, part of me's happy to see the end of the kind of Madrid, Barca and Atleti dominance. Oh my gosh. Deportivo, what is this? Deportivo won the league 15 years in a row? I might not be able to count, but a lot of years in a row. That is mad. So they did have a spell of dominance. Of course, they won it a few times in the last video, but they've continued that spell for a fairly long extended period of time there. In terms of record holders, most time winners is Barcelona. Most points in a season, Deportivo La Coruña in 21-21. Fewest points in a season, Santander, have won the league. They hold the record still with 9. That's set back in the 1900s. Feels weird to be saying that as opposed to in the 90s. 1900s is a weird period of time to reference. Biggest win, Bilbao v Barcelona, still the record holder there. Most games without winning, Atletico Pamplona, not doing too great. I mean, you guys can pause it and have a look and see if there's anything here that you spotted that I miss. I'm emotionally accepting at this point that I'm probably not going to catch absolutely everything when it comes to this save game. All the different winners and losers, of course. We're covering 200 years as opposed to the normal 50 years. This video already going to be slightly longer than the previous ones we've done in the future. As I said, if we want to go into more detail with this, I have save games every single year. We could certainly, do a stream where we just go through it all, have a look at who's winning what, where and when. And, well, let's have a look here. So PSG, I mean, it's a bit boring that PSG are back on top now, but in terms of past winners, Marseille winning it a lot of years in a row. Looking at this here, any surprise winners here? Havre, kind of not entirely surprising because they have emerged as a real force in the save. Nice won it a few more years. Marseille, PSG, Lyon. Auxerre winning it a couple of years in a row. In the 80s recently. Monaco making an appearance for the first time in a very long time there. And yeah, PSG winning it in recent years. If we just look at the records, again, you can pause it, take a look. Looking at it, just kind of generally speaking, Liga 1 really hasn't changed that much in terms of what's happening. Anyway, we'll have a look at Serie A, just to round things up in terms of the league. I do want to try and load up the leading transfers. Some people asked about that last video. We tried it in episode 1 of this kind of mini-series, 50 years into the future. Of course, you can check out both the previous videos we've done. But it wasn't loading for me then. I've not actually checked if it's going to load for us here. Right, in terms of Serie B, Brescia have won it, a fair few years in a row. Looking at it here, oh my god, okay, they went for a real spell of dominance in the 60s. Besides that, though, mostly just existing Serie A teams winning it. You can see here Roma, Inter, obviously Milan, Genoa won it as well. Fair play to them. Brescia, probably the biggest shock out of all these teams. Inter in recent years gone on a run, and then Fiorentina for the last 9 years in a row have kind of just continued their dominance in terms of record holders. Most time winners is Inter with 95. Most league wins in a season is 33 for Juve. That is an existing record that has stood for the last 200 years. I mean, that's kind of impressive in itself. Yeah, you guys can continue to look through these and tell me if you spot anything particularly odd. We'll have a quick look, I think, at the Hall of Fame. So looking at it here, the winner is Sam Evans. I'm guessing this guy's a regen. He retired as a player age 30. He retired as staff age 68. And he won a lot. He won a lot. His first ever non-playing role was Blythe Spartans assistant manager. He then went to Northampton. He then went to Lincoln. He then went to Plymouth and then Watford. And then he went to Deportivo and won all those competitions in a row for Deportivo. Well, they were just like the best team in the world. I mean, fair play. He won the league, the first division, 18 times. Not bad for a guy who started his career as a Blythe Spartans assistant manager to finish top of the Hall of Fame. Pep Guardiola still up there. That's pretty impressive. Biblic Arturo, are you a real player? You're not. I thought I recognised the name. He started his career at Kettering, a Gambian international who went on to have a prestigious career at Hartlepool United. You guys can tell me what he achieved. I could read through it all. He won the Champions League with Real Madrid. So he did that. I'm sure he did some other stuff here. It looks like he was manager of Palace when they were going for a very good spell. But yeah, a Gambian international with 100 caps. Starts his career at Kettering. Goes on to become one of the best managers in the history of football. Brendan Rodgers in 10th. You can actually see here the honours that they've won, actually, now I've realised. So yeah, I'll scroll through these so you can have a look. I guess Sam Evans just won everything with La Coruña. I mean, look at that. That is mad, just what he achieved. With only 3 clubs as well, he won silverware to contribute towards the Hall of Fame. That is impressive. Brendan Rodgers, Dortmund kind of manager, did pretty well with them. Was Real Madrid manager, was Tottenham manager. I mean, that hurts a little. That's a bit of a betrayal, Brendan, but I'll let you off. William Hugg, I'm only clicking on him because I like his name. But again, this guy, Marseille manager for a number of years, did very, very well. Went to Arsenal and won 2 Premier League titles with them as well. Is there anyone who's like a 1 or 2 team manager here? It doesn't look like it. The one was actually Sam Evans. Right, to round things up, I am going to try and load up the world transfers. I tried this before and it just doesn't load. It's just broken. Of course, I actually want to look at leading transfers. I can tell that the game is trying to load something. I don't know what it's actually going to load here. I might have to wait. Okay, leading transfers. It did actually load them. I'm impressed. So, record transfer was John Jairo Castro to Sevilla for £205 million. He retired a number of years ago now. You can see for Sevilla he played he scored 155 goals for them, the Colombian. Is this going to hang every time? We might not go through all these players if it's going to be this laggy. In terms of more, I was about to say in terms of more recent, Dennis is the most recent actually, going from Norwich to Leipzig for £189 million. In terms of real players, Alisson, I guess that's Alisson. It's not Alisson Becker. It's a different Alisson. I've been debated. It is a Brazilian, but it's not the Alisson we're looking for. But that kind of of the early transfers in the save game, the one the biggest, £181 million for him. I'm worried that I'm going to miss kind of a real transfer. I guess Dembele is probably the only one. He went from PSG to Man City for £164 million. That's pretty mad. But yeah, £205 million, the record leading transfer there. I feel like it could get even higher than that in real world football in the next 200 years. But who knows? Maybe we won't be playing football in 200 years. Maybe we'll be kicking balls around in space. Anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up this video from me, Football Manager, simulating 200 years into the future. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. As I said, definitely open to doing a live stream. I haven't holidayed any further than this. I might try and get it to go, but the game is just getting so chuggy. You can see here I'm struggling to load menus now. The actual progression takes even longer because the amount of players and the save file is just getting stupidly big. If it's something you guys really desperately want to see, I'll try and make it happen. But with all the leagues I've got loaded, it is kind of a problem. I may even start a new simulation like this on the full game with the final database. Obviously, this was simulated during the beta. Who knows, maybe some different stuff will happen. Either way, though, that is going to be all from me today. If you have enjoyed this video, do leave a like on it. If you've got any comments, leave them down below. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.